Would you care to deal, sir?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Data. Actually, I used to be quite a card player in my youth, you know. I should have done this a long time ago.
You were always welcome.
So, 5-card stud, nothing wild. And the sky's the limit.
Welcome to the end of the road. Oh, no, not for us, but for series finales to Geek Salad episode 237. Spoilers. Duh. I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
I'm Catherine.
And tonight we are finally tackling something we talked about doing like back in February and just couldn't get around to doing it, which honestly, I feel like the timing worked out because we are talking about our favorite television series finales. And it's actually kind of fitting that because this week we're recording on May 31st. 3 of the shows that I have been watching, all Emmy-winning, just critically acclaimed shows, have ended. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Succession, and Ted Lasso all ended in the span of a 5-day period.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of fitting that we're talking about spoilers now. Not spoilers now. I'm sorry, series finales now. God damn it. So
yeah, I know.
Also talking about spoilers.
If we did this episode back when we originally said we were going to, I know one of my picks would not be on the list.
Oh, neither would mine. I'd be dipping right into my honorables, and I almost did, but I gave it a few days. But anyway, we are not here just to banter about what could have been. We are going to talk about what is. And we went to social media, and guys, I apologize. This blew up. I was quite honestly not expecting the response that we were going to get for our friends, their series finales. But I also threw a question out there, which I felt I would get a little bit of traction. Again, it blew up, and I have to read some of these. So I had put a question out there because I know for myself, and I'm not sure about you guys, and please feel free to pipe in on this. Did you guys have a lot of difficulty trying to like really winnow down truly great series finales?
Yep.
Yeah, it's difficult because a lot of the problem is that shows sometimes just don't know when to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, a lot of their best years were already behind them by the time a finale does come along, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't really have that much of a problem though because I already kind of had my list sorted when I suggested the topic.
That's fair.
Ringer.
But yeah, it wasn't necessarily great, but like most of them are great in my opinion, but it was ones that were worth discussing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's really kind of more the point is like there really aren't a lot of great finales. Like I said, shows have a hard time ending for some reason. I don't know why.
And it's. I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Sometimes it's not so much it doesn't have a great finale. It's just it gets canceled before it has a chance to have a great finale. So it doesn't finale. It just ends.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what show it was on where somebody was like, you have to like get to the point where we don't want to watch it anymore when you cancel it. Don't cancel it before it becomes unwatchable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But the other thing too is that just thinking about like the ones I picked, and I'm sure the ones that you picked too, they're not just, hey, the show is ending. We're going to have this super happy ending. We just all move on. And, there are other series finales where they just absolutely shit their pants. Like they shit themselves. They can't stick that landing. And that's why I asked a question on Twitter about why is it so hard for long-running shows to really stick that landing with their finales. And I put a GIF of Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother holding up that stupid French horn. And
that's what that show was from.
Yeah. Okay. And we're going to focus on the positive for the majority of the show. We're not going to talk about stuff that irked us for series finales, but we do have a lot of stuff here. And I'm going to start off with our friend Sean Duke at Grand Moff Duke, PhD, Esquire at Sean Duke. And he says, I have many thoughts, but how dare you not have me on this one? Seriously. I think it's because almost every TV show has no idea whether it's going to get continued beyond season 1. And when it does, it keeps going and has to figure out how to stretch things.
But to kind of expand on that a little bit, it's tough because there's some series that a good series will have like 3 or 4 years planned out and then plan on ending like after maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then the problem is, and I think maybe Catherine will agree with me on this, is like, especially on Supernatural, you saw that after year 5, okay, what do we do now? We got to keep coming up with stuff, and
right.
It's like at some point, it's like, okay, where do you start running out of ideas, and then it's like, okay, how am I going to end this when I've done pretty much everything I could do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Eric Kripke had a 5-year plan for Supernatural, and when they finished year 5, he was like, okay, we are done. And he left it in the hands of everybody else and moved on to other projects.
Right. And the CW was like, no, we got to keep this. We got to keep this money train going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know I say this a lot, guys, but fucking CW.
I agree. Although there are some episodes of season 6 that were definitely like really cool. I'm thinking about the alien abduction thing, the French mistake. Season 6 wasn't bad, but I kept going for a while, and then it was like harder to do appointment watching, and the CW app kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So I haven't finished Supernatural. An older series that also was like, I have a 5-year plan, was Babylon 5. And had a 5-year plan, and the network he was on was like, wrap it all up in season 4. He wraps it all up in season 4, and then some other, we'll give you a season 5. And he was like, okay. And Michael J. Straczynski is like trying to come up with a season 5, and it was like, the Londo and Jakar stuff was good. Everything else was so painful.
Oh man. So Sean actually continues with this, by the way, and he says that you can only really stretch a premise so much before it snaps, and you have to limply stitch it back together. How I Met Your Mother wasn't terrible in my view, but it could have never lived up to what was promised after 7+ seasons building to it. Fair.
Yeah.
So we've got Metalcore Nerds at Metalcore Nerds, who says, I think network TV has made it hard when season episode orders were so long. Although I think Friends, The Office, etc. nailed the landings with their finales. But the one in the GIF, How I Met Your Mother, legit is my least favorite finale of all time. Movies and T at Movies and T Pod says, the viewers have their vision free from the restraints of studio put on production with budgets, etc. At the same time, the desire to create a talking point usually falls to killing off a favorite, R.I.P. Anya, which sours the triumph of the end goal finally being achieved.
Mm-hmm.
Diabolical, evil schemes done better at Diabolical Pod says, what is this? Looks like the Sam Raimi story. Shoot the Flick says at Shoot the Flick says, because most shows that are successful don't have an exit strategy. But even if they do, some stations won't let things die, like Supernatural, and kind of like for Babylon 5, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But in the case of Babylon 5, it wasn't like Supernatural where they extended it beyond. For Babylon 5, one network cut it short, and I think UPN or something picked it up later.
Yeah.
And it was like, and so at the end of season 4, it was like,
Yeah.
There was some kind of message, and we went and watched the last season, and it was like, oh. And they tried to fix it with some made-for-TV movies after that, but it was...
Damage was done.
Yeah, it wasn't like Stargate SG-1.
So we've got The Good, the Bad, and the Nerdy Podcast, which says, How I Met Your Mother got too greedy. They should have ended with Ted and Tracy getting married. They didn't need to have all this future stuff. They also should have had Bob Saget narrate the ending. That is absolutely fair. Stu World Order at SWO Productions says, if you don't go in with a plan and just kind of ad-lib the series as it goes, you'll never really build to a decent payoff. Scott Gilland at Scott Gilland says, the worst thing about the How I Met Your Mother finale, I really started something with that gif, was that seemingly that this was always the plan. Sometimes the inflexibility of changing your ending due to how your story has evolved is the cause too. And that is absolutely true about How I Met Your Mother. Those kids, when they did all that, kids, let me tell you about the time I had sex with your Aunt Robin 15 times and how I had sex with all these other women. Just sit there, look uncomfortable. Those were all shot in the first season. So 7 years prior, 7 or 8 years prior, they had filmed all that stuff. So the ending was set in stone before they reached a conclusion that people liked, because everybody's conclusion at the end of it was Robin Schabotsky was no prize. Hey, our buddy Kurt Smith at Swayze of Arabia says, I think it's because the writers and showrunners probably run out of steam and they're probably just treading water. Absolutely true. Our friend Nick at Black Girls Do Stuff Too at BLK Girls Do Stuff says, Taft's Mike. Having just experienced a disappointing finale, I think it's because they haven't thought ahead about how the story ends. And so they work towards it without actually giving both the characters and audience what they need to wrap it up well. And I think I know what she's talking about, because she just binge True Blood. And that is the series finale that really made my blood boil.
I heard a lot of people were not happy with the series finale.
No. Oh God, it sucks. And that's one of the things I was thinking about when I was coming up with this question. Another friend of the pod, very good friend, M at Verbal Diorama, which is at Verbal Diorama, says, I think it's because the uncertainty of TV and the threat of being canceled early. Most shows don't really plan the beginning, middle, and end properly, so they rest on their laurels in the middle, and by the time they do end, they've messed it up. Good point. And she's in England, where they actually do end series in a timely fashion. Yeah. The British Office lasted 2 seasons?
Well, right. Well, but that's because they don't. It's not like they renew the series. They'll do one series, and you may not get a second season for another 3 or 4 years. There's not like a set schedule like there is here in the States. So you don't know if your show is going to get picked up again. So you basically got to tell the whole story in one season.
Exactly.
Way to talk about why the WGA is going on strike.
Yes, exactly. That pretty much just all feeds into that. So we've got Thomas at Perpetual Cinema, who says the battle of the natural development versus personal preference. Again, very good point. NostalgiaCast at DW Lundberg says, I don't have a solid answer for you other than to say that Cheers and MASH had pitch perfect finales. We're going to be getting into those, so hold tight there. Rachel Reviews Movies and Theater at Rachel_Reviews says, the one that certainly didn't. I thought the finale for Big Bang Theory was excellent. Our good friend Derek at Midnight Myth Pro Choice at Derek Jones 198 says, well, perhaps the skills needed to make people come back week after week in a serial could be antithetical to telling the whole narrative from beginning to middle to end. Great point. Let me tell you a story at Rich Hosek says, a lot of time the original creators of the show may be long gone, so the writers left to close up don't care as much. They're busy trying to set up their own pilots for the next show. So when you have a show's creator stick through for the whole run, you get Mad Men. For my money, the best series finale of all time. Actually, that Rich ended up on my honorable mentions list, and it came damn close. And Fred Riley at Venomond_Dpan says, I think Chris Boucher on Blake 7 goes against that trend. He wrapped up a series that was started by Terry Nation with a magnificently bleak ending. Andrew Durning at Andrew Durning 87 says they overstay their welcome due to their own popularity and need to make money. Longer a series runs, as harder it becomes to let it go, especially if it's raking it in for all involved. Then when it's not making money, it gets dropped and the writers have to scramble for an ending. I feel like that's really apt for network, maybe more so than the quote-unquote premium channel cable type of shows. I swear to God, guys, I'm almost done here, and I really am sorry this took over so much of our time. So, Two Guys on a Friday.
I wanted to talk about Blake 7, if we could go back to that for just a second.
Yes.
Because that was originally on my honorable mentions list, and I'm like, nobody's going to know about that. But somebody brought it up, so I would like to talk about the fact that this is an all-time, holy cow, what the hell were they doing series finale, where all of the heroes that you have been following for 4 series die, not in a blaze of glory, but in a blaze of, like, they just die, and the villain stands over them victorious.
Excellent.
That's bleak.
So it is, yeah.
That is bleak.
Yeah.
It's bleak 7.
Yeah, exactly. It's very sad.
All right. So next up, we got Two Guys on a Friday podcast at Two Guys on Friday. Says partially because the fans don't want it to end, no matter what ending. Many are going to think it's ridiculous. Very true. We are going to have a conversation about that in just a little bit. No spoilers yet. Telehell at Telehell Podcast says, I'm about to do an episode on the Seinfeld finale myself, and I think the easy answer to this question is a simple case of too much hype. Trying to live up to that hype and living up to the pressure being built up for itself to end with a bang. Yes, and quite honestly, I think the Seinfeld finale might be the prime example of that.
Well, we'll discuss it.
We're going to be getting into that actually in a little bit, Joe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about that one.
Okay. Well, you've got one on your list. I'm really genuinely curious.
All right.
So thank you, everybody, for responding back to that one. I did not genuinely expect it to blow up like that, so thank you. But I also didn't genuinely expect it was going to take that much time. So I think what we need to do now is go to the second question on Twitter, which was to ask our friends on Twitter what is a finale that they really felt stuck that landing. But before I do, Catherine, I believe your special fella Joe had one he wanted to add to this list.
Yes, specifically. So his comment was that the end of Trigun, which is an anime series, where Vash stops his brother by stepping on Nicholas de Wolfwood's cross machine gun, was a perfect wrap-up where Vash didn't kill his brother, the bad guy got stopped, and it shouts out the guy who was groomed to be an assassin and then chose to leave behind a life of evil. About as good as it gets for a wrap-up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, the Trigun finale was a pretty decent one, yeah.
Yeah, I was just immediately going to defer to you on this because I've never seen Trigun. But
I've watched some of it, and it was one of those like he loaned me the DVDs, and then he loaned them to somebody else, and they got lost. But I remember that was one of the ones where I was like, I listened to the dub version and also had the subtitles on, and I found that the best translation was a combination of the two.
Well, lovely. I've actually met the guy who did the dub voice of Vash.
Nice.
Johnny Youngbosh, actually, one of the second Black Power Ranger.
Ah. Or as I would say, because it's anime. Oh.
But no, Trigun is a real fun anime, and it does have it has a very solid ending.
Awesome.
So I would agree with John
Joe
Joe on that one. Yeah, sorry.
All the J's.
Yeah.
You agree with John often.
Yes, exactly. You do. So I just want to point one thing out here. And this is in case anybody is like, well, you recorded on the 31st. What about Ted Lasso, Andy? What about Ted Lasso?
Yes, what about Ted Lasso, Andy?
All right. Funny story. So last night.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, don't laugh just yet. So last night I was waiting till about 10 o'clock to watch the Ted Lasso finale, because usually what happens is that Apple TV will say it comes out on Wednesday, but usually around like 9 or 10 Eastern Standard Time, it will they'll release that episode. So Autumn and I waited, and we waited. 9 o'clock rolls into 10 o'clock, still nothing. So finally, I'm scrolling through Apple TV. I'm scrolling through Twitter too to see if anybody is watching it yet. And then they said episode will be released 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Oh.
Mother puss bucket. I could not. I was like, I can't stay up. And because Autumn has rehearsal tonight, we couldn't watch it today. So it is notably absent. From what I've heard, it's really good. I will make that judgment probably tonight after we record, so I can watch it with the missus when she gets back from rehearsal. I'm not throwing in anything like, hey, this is Andy. Listen, I just watched the Ted Lasso finale. It's going to replace one of my finales. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to do that to Mike, because I know Mike's editing, and it's going to be hard enough job doing all this anyway. Did I mention that there were going to be spoilers as we talked about these episodes? So that is your warning. Spoiler alert, everybody. Again, if the title didn't throw you off on this.
Spoilers.
I did already ruin Blake 7 for anybody that hasn't watched it yet.
That's okay. I'm probably never going to watch it.
There's shows from the 70s in England. Yeah, you don't have an excuse.
Also,
it's like people complaining about spoilers for Citizen Kane. You know?
Yeah, it's true. Yep.
And
by the way,
it's a sled.
Yeah,
Rosebud is the sled.
I've actually seen it. It's at the Academy Museum out in Los Angeles.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read our our Twitter feedback here, only because my eyes don't work like the chameleon. If you had something on your list, please speak up and let's stop. We'll park. We'll drop a clip and we'll talk about it.
All right.
Sound good?
Yeah,
that works.
Awesome. So let's start with Nerd in Texas podcast at Nerd in Texas, who says shameless. I believe that was on Showtime with William H. Macy, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it depends. It depends if you're talking about the English one or the American one.
I'm assuming Nerd in Texas. I'm assuming it's the William H. Macy one.
Yeah, probably.
So, I thought it was like a Western, so I'm already out.
All right. We've got Brian Auer at Bauerfett, who says Quantum Leap.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
I should put that on one of my honorable mentions, because that was stupendous.
I did mean to put that on my honorable mentions, and I did think about it, and then I forgot about it. Okay, can we talk about this for a minute?
Oh,
yes.
I disagree on that one.
I have a story.
Yeah, that one killed the entire show for me.
I thought it was.
Oh, not for me. Not for me. I thought it was the perfect ending to Sam's journey.
Yeah,
there was no ending.
Rather,
Sam's journey didn't end, but Al's did. And
right.
So anyway, I had to watch this after the original airing because we were watching it as it aired in college, and some goddamn asshole in the dorm pulled a fire alarm.
Oh,
and
no!
And I sat there going, I know that if I don't evacuate for just a fire drill, I can get fined. And I'm like, I have enough money in my check account. I will write the goddamn fireman a check. I am staying. But my friends were like, no, we have to go. And I'm like, Furr! And
no jury in the world will convict me. No jury in the world will convict me.
And I was outside, and this is like, I'm in college. This isn't like I could just buy it on DVD later. I could just stream it. No, but that wasn't a thing.
No, there was no such thing.
There was a possibility I would never be able to see this. And I was so mad, and I was yelling outside. I'm like, if I find you, I will kill you. I was watching the Quantum Leap series finale. And somebody else goes, you're complaining? I was smoking a joint. And
Mike?
then I watched it.
Oh, sorry.
And I watched it eventually, and I was in tears. And then I watched season 1, which I hadn't seen, and I was like, you know what? I don't give a shit if he ever gets back to his wife. She's kind of lame.
So, Mike, thoughts?
You have thoughts?
Yeah, it's like, like every single episode begins with hoping that the next leap will be his leap home, and then it ends with he never got home. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
but that's the point is because no, Sam decided he had the choice to go back home, and he decided no, this is my destiny.
He had Swiss cheese brain. First of all, he had Swiss cheese brain, which they talked about frequently, but then again, I'm with Mike on the fact that originally I was very upset that he didn't get home, but then we go back to season 1 where there's an episode where you meet his wife, and I'm like, that. You want to go back to that?
Nah,
and it's nothing on her appearance. The person was a lousy actress, and I'm like, I don't care about you.
Yeah, me and my coworker have had many discussions about this. We both agree that finale just killed the entire series for me. It's like, why do I bother watching when I know he never gets home?
He just continues going around saving people.
It destroyed it for me.
Is it on Peacock now? Didn't they reboot?
Yeah, there's a reboot. It's actually a sequel.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Yeah, it takes place in the same universe as the original.
All right.
Okay.
Well, Brian, I really hope you're happy with yourself, Bauer Fett, because you've opened up this can of worms. I'm kidding, of course. Thank you for contributing. So we've got Capes on the Couch at Capes on the Couch, who brings up The Good Place, a show that ended up on my honorable mention list. Ended exactly how it needed to, nothing drawn out and completely organic to every character. 10 out of 10, no notes. I loved the finale to The Good Place. I really did. It pained me that we limited ourselves to 4 here because it's so good.
I never watched it, so I can't really comment on it.
It's really excellent. Unfortunately, I was starting to watch the show when Autumn's dad got sick, so it was something I kind of had to watch on my own for obvious reasons. Because it takes place in the afterlife, but it's so that last season just was so natural and felt so good, and the way it wrapped up was just it did everything right. It wasn't manipulative, and I just thought it ended on the best possible note.
Yeah, I know John is a big fan of it as well.
Oh, it's so good. Game for a Movie podcast at Game for a Movie says Futurama. I know it's coming back, but seriously, there's a reason why this is my most rewatched show. And they include the gif of old Fry and Leela, which is really sweet.
Didn't they have 9 different finales?
I don't know. I've lost track. Scarlett and I started watching Futurama, and then we just stopped. I don't know why.
I've got a coworker who really liked the original run, and then he watched the most recent reboot, and he didn't enjoy it as much. So he's not really looking forward to the latest rerun.
The second reboot.
Yeah, the second revival. I'll call it a revival.
Yeah, a revival because it was never rebooted. They just continued the series.
Right.
Yeah.
After it got canceled the first time around.
And that's something I feel like does a really great series finale dirty if you're just it's just going to continue again. There's certain things like with House of the Dragon, or even The Many Saints of Newark, which are prequels to existing, in this case, HBO series that definitely ended on a definitive note.
Right.
But but I really I tried my best to avoid anything that had a reboot attached to it.
Yeah, that's the reason why the Mystery Science Theater 3000 finale didn't make my list, is because technically it wasn't the series finale.
Yeah, and it's forever. MST is forever. It truly is. That stage show is brilliant.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we got Shoot the Flick at Shoot the Flick, who says Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I've heard that. I've never watched Avatar. It's
it was good. No, it was a very good. I mean, it concluded Aang's journey very well.
I've heard the finale,
but a lot of it was kind of undone by the sequel, The Legend of Korra.
Because that really had a decent finale as well.
Right, but the problem is it kind of made Aang look like a really bad father.
Yeah.
Because it takes place like a couple of generations after Avatar, and the one of the characters is Aang's son, who's now a grandfather, and he's just like from the way he tells it, Aang was a shit father. But anyways, so I mean, if it didn't have a sequel, it would have been a very good ending.
Fair enough.
Yeah, awesome. So we've got the So Wizard podcast at So Wizard Podcast that says The Shield absolutely nailed it. Yes, this is the series finale is brutal, and it ends up with Vic Mackey, who has been this tough, corrupt cop for I think 6 seasons. He just
Michael
ends up
Chiklis' character.
What's that? Yeah.
Michael Chiklis. All right.
Yep. That he just ends up assigned to a desk job, and it's like the worst fate that could befall him. It would have been better for him to have been killed in the line of duty, but he just gets relegated to a desk.
Yeah, which for a cop like him,
right?
Like you said, it is career death. It's like, oh,
yeah,
right. But the whole thing that his partner Shane had killed a member of their group, and his demise is devastating because he doesn't just take himself out; he takes his wife and kid out with him. And it's rough. It's really rough, but it's a fantastic finale. Just didn't end up on my list. So we've got the Good, the Bad, and the Nerdy podcast at Good, Bad, Nerdy Pod, who brings up Blackadder Goes Forth.
Oh my God, that is such a depressing ending.
Blackadder series, yes.
For a series like Blackadder with Rowan Atkinson, with some of the silliness and everything that goes on, to end like that.
Don't they always end up dead? Like at the end, like I've only watched Blackadder season 2, and everybody's dead at the end of that.
Right, but the way they ended
killed by Glory.
Right, but the way they ended it for season 4, it was brutal. It was
because they were in the trenches of World War I France, so they just all run out together, and then it just fades to the poppy fields.
Yeah. Basically saying, hey, haha, fun. They're all dead.
Yep.
They're all dead.
And I'm not a big fan of that 4th season either. Compared to season 2 and season 3 are brilliant. I just wasn't a huge fan of season 4.
For the longest time, the only Blackadder I'd ever seen was the season 4 episode Private Plane.
Okay.
And that one is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. I do remember one where they were in a prison, and Alexei Sayle was a German prison guard, and he just kept he loved British humor because of their jokes about the breaking of the Wind.
Yeah, that was Private Plane.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
That was the only episode of Blackadder I'd ever seen, and I loved it so much. I actually recorded, got a tape recorder, brought it to the TV, and recorded the audio from the entire episode and just played it.
Yeah, Series 4 seemed to be the only one they'd ever air on PBS. It drove me nuts. So The Good, Bad, and the Ugly also brings up 6 Feet Under, kind of set the bar for finales. It is a very good... I wasn't a big 6 Feet Under fan. But,
and I think I saw one episode, and that was it.
Yeah. And then, all right, start pulling off of our lists here. Good, Bad, and the Ugly mention Good, Bad, and the Nerdy rather mentions Newhart, which is on my list. It was also brought up by friend of the show Dave McLean. So let's talk about The Last Newhart, airing May 21st, 1990.
All right, Bob. What is it? I was an innkeeper in this crazy little town in Vermont. I'm happy for you. Good night. Nothing made sense in this place. I mean, the maid was an heiress. Her husband talked in alliteration. The the handyman kept missing the point of things. And then there were these 3 woodsmen, but only one of them talked.
That settles it. No more Japanese food before you go to bed.
Have you all seen
I've seen it. I did. I loved Newhart. I loved watching Newhart when I was in high school. And that finale was, I thought, the perfect ending for the show. I mean, for him to wake up and it was all a dream.
Yeah.
And it's like he wakes up in the setting from his original Newhart show from the 70s.
I used to watch the Bob Newhart show with my mother's old boyfriend, and he said if they could change fashions the way that they colorize movies, this was the late 80s when he said this, Newhart would still hold up today.
Oh,
and he's absolutely right about it. The Bob Newhart show was fantastic. Newhart was amazing at how good it was because it still depended on Bob Newhart's dry wit and sarcasm, but they completely set it in a different area. And this show had some of the greatest side characters. You know, you had Larry, Daryl, and Daryl, who don't talk, finally speak.
Yep.
In that, and they just say, "Be quiet," because they're married to like 3 Long Island broads. Who are just like they're all like they're chipped away from the DNA of Fran Drescher. But yeah, Joe, this is the kind of series finale I also think about too. That imagine how ruined it would have been in the age of the internet.
But you know what? And the thing was, I like to think that it was Bob Newhart's kind of subtle tweak at Dallas.
Yeah,
because you remember that was the big thing about Dallas, that it was Bobby's death was a dream.
Yeah,
it was such a cultural.
Dream.
Yeah, it was such a cultural moment, but it was such a stupid thing that it's like, oh, so for Bob Newhart to play it up like that was just a brilliant stroke of comedy.
Oh, yeah, and. The best part about it was, too, is that the way they paced that finale, I mean, the entire episode is fantastic. You know, setting it 5 years in the future, having the Japanese buy the entire town, that's all brilliant. But the pacing of Bob, like, waking up and realizing, and it takes you a minute to even realize where he's at. And he turns on the light and you see the apartment. And then Suzanne Pleshette wakes up, and it's just like, oh my God, they're going here. And it's just like, I didn't have the words then. I truly don't have the words now to just say how brilliant that tie-in is. Because they had made references to the Bob Newhart show before. But the best part about that was I was married to this gorgeous blonde. And then at the very end, before he turned, she's like, "Good night, Bob.
Yep.
You should wear more sweaters." And then they just cut. It was brilliant. So let's move on to another one then, and we've got Get Me Another at Get Me Another Pod, who also brings up 6 Feet Under. They bring up Newhart. And they actually bring up a couple more of ours here. So let's start first, Joe, with one of yours. Cheers. One for the Road, May 20th, 1993.
Thanks for staying, guys. Same to you.
Wouldn't be the same without you, Sam.
Yep. Whatever guy followed you, Sam, got some pretty big shoes to fill. Did you hear that? Thus it all returns to footwear.
Thank you, guys. I still keep thinking, though, I want some kind of change in my life.
You know something? I hate change. I mean, every day you wake up, something's changed. Everything's just changing so fast. I like things to stay the way they are, I like things you can count on.
You just gave me something to think about, Woody.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sam. I hate it when somebody does that to me.
Oh, that was the most appropriate ending to that show that you could imagine. Just the bar closing down, everybody just kind of going their own way. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, really kind of the perfect way for NBC to send off basically its anchor, because Cheers was still kind of on top on Thursday night ratings.
Yeah,
it was NBC's Thursday night anchor, and to send it off like that at the top of its game, well, it was still at the top of its game, was pretty good stroke by them.
Yeah, well, they also knew that they had Frasier in their back pocket too.
Right.
Because Frasier came the very next season. But it was, I thought it was
to go
great.
Out. Yeah, it's good to go out when you're still doing well so that people have fond memories. That's one of the reasons why Jim Henson ended The Muppet Show after 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Like that decision, because he was like, I don't want us to suck like those shows that go on too long. Calling it.
Yeah. And I know that the other actors wanted to go forth and do other things, especially Woody Harrelson.
Right.
Oh my God.
He was starting to get big as a cinema actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, this was the year. It was a year removed from White Men Can't Jump. And it's. I love the Cheers finale, and you're right. They ended on top. They were still creatively very funny, but they also knew that the end of the season was going to wrap up a lot of stuff. The whole thing where they finally got one over on Harry the Hat.
Yeah.
Where he was going to bulldoze. I think he was going to bulldoze the bar, and they tricked him into bulldozing something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It really is a great. I gotta go back and rewatch Cheers. I know it's probably gonna hurt my eyes because 1980s video.
Yeah,
videography.
The aspect ratio and everything else is gonna be like, oh my God.
Yeah. So we've got another one. I'm sorry.
You just have to change the aspect ratio on your TV, and it's all good.
Oh, it just blows it out of proportion.
The only thing about the Cheers finale.
Set it to 4:3. Can't you set your TV to 4:3?
I can, yes.
Yeah, I can.
I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
It still looks weird.
The only thing about the Cheers finale that I'm not a big fan of is I never really liked Diane.
Diane was a pill.
I would have been very happy if she had not come back.
I think they needed to do that, though. They needed that final closure because of the way she left.
Yeah.
That she came back, she's successful, and she wants Sam to go with her. And he the best part about that is that he decides not to go.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. He does. It flips that whole trope on its head.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, I'm good with my life where it is right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another one on the Get Me Another Pods list here, which is actually one of Mike's, and also friend of the show, Dave McClain's. Star Trek Next Generation, All Good Things, airing May 23rd, 1994.
The Continuum didn't think you had it in you, Jean-Luc. But I knew you did.
You're saying that it worked? We collapsed the anomaly.
Is that all this meant to you? Just another spatial anomaly, just another day at the office?
Did it work?
Well, you're here, aren't you? You're talking to me, aren't you?
What about my crew?
The anomaly, my ship, my crew. I suppose you're worried about your fish, too. But if it puts your mind at ease, you've saved humanity once again.
Mike, take it
away.
away.
That was so good.
Easily one of my all-time favorites. The way it kind of reconnects back to the very first encounter at Farpoint, and just the way you have bouncing back and forth through time, and cues just popping up saying all right, what are you gonna do next, Jean-Luc? And just the way Q kind of underhandedly helps out Jean-Luc, and just the returning to the courtroom, and then to have the very end having Jean-Luc finally coming and joining in the poker game, and then it was just say I should have done this a long time ago. You are always welcome, and
right. Well, the thing about it is that we always knew that Jean-Luc was one of the best captains in Starfleet, that he really cared deeply about his people.
Yeah.
And about the people that under him, but he always kept a distance to him because he didn't want, it's like that professional, that thing with officers is like, don't get too close or you're gonna, you won't be able to make the hard decisions that you'll need to make. But you always knew that he cared deeply and always wanted the best for his people. Yeah. So for him to finally connect with them at that level, it was almost heartbreaking. It was almost heartbreaking.
It was very touching. And actually, my husband had loved the show, but he hadn't been watching it from the start. So one day randomly, we put on the pilot. He mentioned he'd loved Next Generation, but he'd never seen the pilot. I put the original episodes on, and he was like, he got it immediately because of course he'd seen the finale.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So he connected to it immediately, and it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like Hugh says, the trial never ends, because you first see the trial in the very first episode, and then it comes right back, and it's such a great just wrapping up of that whole storyline. That this one kind of defies most because it is that episodic, 7 seasons, and it's not the same writers from the last season as it was for the first.
Right, but there was a way that writing works, though.
Yeah.
But there's one thing about Star Trek writers is that they understand the themes behind Star Trek.
Yeah.
You very rarely have any series that doesn't understand what Star Trek is about. Enterprise.
Yeah, there was actually when they were getting around to doing the 200th episode of Star Trek Next Generation, they had a big special, and one of the things they talked about was the writers would, you have the people that are writing, but they also had the tech people, and so people would just put it, the script writer would just put in technobabble. And the people that knew how the ship worked or was supposed to work would put in the content. It's I need technobabble to explain why this isn't working. And somebody would put those lines. Somebody else from the writing staff would put those lines in, which is, it's really funny, but it shows what a collaborative writing environment the show was.
Yeah.
It's we have our specialties. I do the character stuff. You do the stuff that the sci-fi nerds won't roast us for in the pre-internet days.
Now, kind of speaking along the Star Trek TNG lines, has anybody watched Picard? Because supposedly that had a very good finale.
Yes,
I'm currently in that phase of Paramount Plus where my mother isn't paying for it, so therefore I'm not watching it. Because all of the old fart cop shows that my stepfather loves so much are not on right now.
Oh,
I'll get back to it.
Because I watched the first half of the first season. And it was good until there's an event that happens that just, I was like, oh, you know what? I don't want to watch anymore.
I have a coworker on the art team at my company, and he worked on a Star Trek video game at one point in his career. And so he's always been a big Star Trek fan. And so he's watched it all, and he's loved Picard so much. So I'm a
lot of people say, they say the finale is one of the best in Star Trek.
So, yeah. That was a funny meme of what Star Wars fans wanted, what Star Trek fans got. But I'm getting to the point where I'm
it's lazy.
I need to pay for Paramount at this point or something, because I do want to watch Picard.
You know what, Catherine, for me, the biggest thing is that it's the same thing with Peacock. I really am galled by the fact that a network television studio has all of their stuff behind a paywall. And I really fucking hate that.
Yeah, it's I will watch the commercials. Come on.
Right.
Well, the thing is it's they're putting their best stuff on their streaming, because I'll be honest with you, network episodic television nowadays sucks.
When was the last time you watched a network television show? An actual...
Oh, never.
Yeah, it's
beyond a couple of sitcoms here and there. I love Nathan... Yeah, I love Nathan Fillion, but I'm not going to watch the Rookie.
Right.
Yeah, I quit. I didn't finish Castle. You know, I got tired of it. I didn't finish Bones. I got tired of it.
It's a weird new world now that we're dealing with when it comes to this stuff. All right. Well, awesome. I'm glad we all got something out of that one. I never actually saw the Next Generation finale, only because I think it was in college, and I think I had to work that night, and it just never came back into conversation. I don't know why. It's weird. All right, back to our good buddy Derek Jones, 198 at Derek Midnight Myth, who says, "Got to give a shout out to Clone Wars. It nailed it. While controversial, The Sopranos had something new."
Oh, damn it! I actually would have put that on my list but I just completely forgot about it.
I would have put Clone Wars as my honorable mention because holy shit!
I might have actually taken off one of my lists and put that one on there because that finale was amazing on so many levels.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Find our way to the shuttle?
There are too many. Besides, I don't want to hurt them.
I hate to tell you this, but they don't care. This ship is going down, and those soldiers, my brothers, are willing to die and take you and me along with them.
You're a good soldier, Rex. So is every one of those men down there. They may be willing to die, but I am not the one who is going to kill them.
But you know, I had a hard time because there was a couple of Star Wars animated series and live action series that have great endings to them and finales, but it's tough with Star Wars because it's part of a larger universe that just keeps going on.
Right.
Yeah,
like what happens after the Clone Wars. It's like, okay.
It's the thing I have to give Clone Wars all the credit for is that it started out shitty. That movie is terrible, but it learned to adapt, and it really God bless Dave Filoni, because it evolved into this amazing TV series. And that final episode, the best part about that episode is just the fact of all the timing that is built into it to make it work in the grander picture of things.
What Dave Filoni did for the character of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I mean, she was like Jar Jar Binks level hated, and by the end, she was one of the most beloved characters in all of Star Wars lore.
And now she's getting her own show.
She's one of the most beloved characters in Star Wars lore.
Yeah. And that finale, I think, cemented that because, and like her relationship with Rex was, and just like the fact that, when the big finale, when the climax is about to happen, and Rex, she takes Rex's helmet off, and you see that tear because they know what they have to do.
Yeah.
And, and she's like, they may be willing to kill us, but are you willing to kill them?
Yeah.
And
I think it did more to convey the tragedy of Order 66 and Anakin's fall than any of the prequels did.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. With the prequels, it was like, oh, the clones are turning on us. Let's slaughter them all. This one, no, the clones are people, and they were pawns. They're not in control of our actions, but we still have to deal with them.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really makes it tragic.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful ending.
Yeah. So, did anybody have any thoughts on Derek mentions The Sopranos? I'd kind of fallen off from The Sopranos at this point.
I'd never watched it.
I never got into the Sopranos bandwagon, so it's like,
I mean, we all know the ending, though. It just cuts to, Don't Stop Believing cuts to black. We're all to believe Tony died. And we may as well now, because unfortunately James Gandolfini's passed. But
yeah.
Also, Breaking Bad is simply a perfect end. There was a show I got perfectly halfway through, and then we're just like, I can't right now. It's you never just have a show that is just too heavy you can't continue it, and Breaking Bad was that for me. I know it's brilliant.
That was actually kind of hard for me.
Yeah, actually, the reason I watched, like, you guys were talking about Breaking Bad coming up on its finale, and I'm like, I guess I really get on board, and I, like, went and bought the seasons on Amazon and got all caught up so that I could watch the final season, and it was amazing. And that one was on my honorable mentions list, actually.
And from everything I've been told, the episode that led up to the finale is actually a better episode. Just overall, the second to last episode is the best episode they did.
God, it's been so long now.
Yeah, but it kind of follows, you know, though, Catherine, it follows that Game of Thrones rule, though, where like all the shit happens in the penultimate season episode.
I don't know. I have Jesse driving and screaming like is fixed in my head.
Oh, okay.
as like a very memorable moment. Yeah. You know, Jesse like that. You know, all the actors were brilliant, and also the trunk gun thing was just trunk gun rig was amazing. And then of course, like around this time, they did a MythBusters episode where they touched on a bunch of stuff.
It's been 10 years. I really should get back into it. So, all right. And then we've got, again, Kurt Smith, Exposition of Arabia, who brings up The Office. He does bring up Mystery Science Theater, and I'm assuming he means the Comedy Central / sci-fi original
that is
cast.
a really good ending.
It was. I love the way that they tied everything back.
Yeah. Especially how they end up watching a TV and they start watching the Crawling Eye.
Yep.
Very first episode on Comedy Central or Comedy Channel.
Yeah, Comedy Channel. Yeah. My God. But Kurt also brings up one of mine, so we have to park for a second and talk about Parks and Recreation, One Last Ride, airing February 24th, 2015.
When do I start?
Oh, today. I already accepted for you. I still remember how to forge your signature. Let's go meet your staff. Pawnee National Park Rangers. This is Ron Swanson, your new superintendent and boss.
Rangers, my name is Ronald Ulysses Swanson. Your job, and mine, is to walk this land and make sure no one harms it. If you show up on time, speak honestly, and treat everyone with fairness, we will get along just fine. Though hopefully not too fine, as I'm not looking for any new friends. End of speech.
I know that The Office and Parks and Rec draw a lot of comparisons, and that's primarily because Greg Daniels was the showrunner for both of them. I think that Parks and Recreation is far and away the better comedy. It evolved from that first season where it was just kind of a clone of The Office into its own thing. It's less cringy. The characters just become more and more likable, even though they have weird or toxic traits. And Andy Dwyer, played by Chris Pratt, was an absolute doofus. He was just this unlikable doofus in season 1, and then by this last episode, turns into like a caring partner, a great dad. He also, hosts a kid show. His character named Johnny Karate.
Let me guess, he's also pretty bulked up, right?
Oh, well, actually, I love the explanation they gave when he actually lost all that weight for Guardians of the Galaxy. He's like, yeah, I just cut out beer. But the series finale of Parks and Recreation is so unique because, first of all, they wanted to do the final season, the 6th season, as a final season, but they did something different. Instead of just a continuation, they moved it takes place in 2025. So they advance into the future where the entire town is being funded, the town of Pawnee, Indiana, is being funded by this gigantic technology firm. And what happens is that everybody is kind of ascended to new jobs. Leslie is doing more within the town government. Ron is still, as the most fun libertarian you'll ever meet. But the entire show, what they did with the finale was they showed how everybody ended up, and it takes these points throughout this varying timeline to show how Andy and April ended up, and how Leslie and Ben ended up, and you're to believe that she has a Secret Service detail. So either she is the president or was the president at some point. I love that Jerry Gergich becomes the mayor of Pawnee for just 11 terms, and he's still married to Morgan Fairchild, who looks exactly the same. And Ben still doesn't understand the dynamic of that relationship. And they even some of the side characters, like Craig, who's brought in in one of the latter seasons, played by Billy Eichner, and he marries Ron's new hairdresser Typhoon, and it's just they show all these different aspects of just everybody gets a happy ending, and it's great because the entire cast deserves a happy ending because they're all genuinely good people. And I'm gonna guess by the sounds, nobody watched the show but me.
Yeah, I didn't watch that. Nope, I was not a Parks and Recreation.
Oh, I love the show so much.
But I agree with you that I love shows finales that have not just series, but movies and stuff that have epilogues that show you, okay, this is what happened. Because it really gives you a sense of finality. Okay, the story is done. We don't need to know more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a wonderful show, and if you have the opportunity to watch it, and you're willing to pay for Peacock, but network TV behind a paywall, fuck you. Yeah, it's excellent. So let's move on. Nick from Black Girls Do Stuff Too says, Big Bang Theory and Fresh Prince for me. I really appreciate the series ended not as a final moment for the characters, but the end of the current adventure, and then on to a new one. So it was ending, but it wasn't the end. And I do like that about stuff. I mean, I watched very little Fresh Prince, and I hated the Big Bang Theory, but I can see that you're moving on from this chapter in your life.
Yeah. And people, and it's we are done. We have wrapped it up. We've told a story, and you are free to imagine what happens next.
Yeah. Awesome. So we got Thomas back from Perpetual Cinema. Says The Shield, Orphan Black, which I think is coming back. If I'm not mistaken, I think Orphan Black might be coming back again.
I did hear about that, but I don't think they're bringing back Tatiana Maslany. I think it's going to be a new story. I don't know if it's a reboot or if it's a sequel or what.
Okay.
But I did hear something about them coming back with more Orphan Black, yeah.
Okay. And Tom also brings up MST3K, not counting Netflix.
Yeah.
All right. We've got Hops Geek News at Hops Geek News, who brings up Clone Wars, brings up Parks and Rec, brings up Rebels. And this is interesting because the finale of Rebels is going to feed directly into my veins of Ahsoka when that comes up this summer.
Oh yeah, baby!
I've actually I have yet to watch the finale for Rebels. I've made it up almost. I've got maybe 4 or 5 episodes of the last season to go.
Okay.
But I haven't watched the next episode because I know exactly what happens in the next episode, and I don't want to see it happen.
Gotcha.
If you've seen Rebels, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But you're just going to have to watch Ahsoka then and just fill in the blanks from there, because we are not waiting to talk about Ahsoka, Mike.
I know.
No, we're not. We're talking about Ahsoka when it drops.
Yep. Because you're going to see Joe and I do a lot of, holy fuck! fucking shit. I had to keep, Joe and I had to keep that between ourselves during Andor, by the way. So
yeah. Exactly.
Are you fucking watching this? Yes. Oh my god. All right. Hops also brings up insert Ted Lasso potentially here as a placeholder. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know. And I also enjoyed Miss Maisel. The Miss Maisel last season was interesting. I wasn't a big fan of what they were doing, but at the finale, and I don't know, Catherine, if you've watched it or not.
My husband wasn't a big fan of the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Like, we got through the first few seasons, and then he was like, I really can't anymore. But he's going away on vacation next week, so I'm going to get all caught up and finish watching the last 2 seasons that I haven't seen yet next week.
Diane loves the Marvelous Miss Maisel, so I've kind of watched it on and off. I haven't watched the finale yet, so.
Okay. The final season is it is a big setup, and all I'll say is that the payoff it's worth it for the payoff.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to I'm excited because I enjoy the story. Like, my husband enjoyed the comedy and didn't like the cringe, and I was like, I am here for the drama. Give it. I did like how I feel like Tony Shalhoub, like, he did this character the first year, and he's like, I want to get away from being that creep.
Yeah.
Yeah, his character, like, he played the character in the first season, and he was like, give me something else to do, because I don't like being the guy that gives his grandchild a black eye. And they're like, all right, now you're a beatnik.
It's really good.
Groovy.
All right, so moving on, we've got Ash at Is an Honest Mess, and they bring up Being Human, the U.S. version, which I haven't seen.
Oh, I
remember that.
It was a bit weird. Like, I was like, the ghost and the vampire, okay, whatever. But I was a big fan of the werewolves, and I watched that series soup to nuts, and I did enjoy it. I was like,
I just remember that Sam Witwer was the vampire.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 seasons, I think, and before I fell off.
It didn't have much. It didn't run long after that. I did like that show a lot.
Yeah, I think the last episode I saw had it had the werewolf's girlfriend finally turn.
Yeah, that was dramatic, but at the same time, she was like, she'd been in the loop, and now she was like, Sally, I can see you, and it was like sad but good but sad, and I think I talked about this before, but like, I thought it was very clever that whenever Sally sat on the couch, they had cushions that didn't bend. I like that attention to detail. Good on the department. Yeah.
Nice. All right, we got one more here, and that's from Tess at Trenton Tess, and she brings up Fringe.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love that. I should have put that in my honorable mentions. I loved Fringe. Fringe was one of my favorite TV shows.
I don't think I ever actually watched it.
I never watched it, but it was one of those things of like, if I ever have time, I do like Joshua Jackson, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Joshua Jackson, Lance Hendrickson, not Lance Hendrickson, Lance Reddick.
Huh?
Yeah, John
Lance
Noble.
Reddick. Rest in peace.
And yeah, the way the finale kind of just tied everything up and just made everything make sense was perfect.
Nice.
Coup de grace.
Nice.
That's good to know. I'm glad that if I ever get around to watching it, it's worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, I just have a hard time getting back at getting like super into network television shows like years after they've happened, because there are so many goddamn episodes.
Yeah,
it's so much easier to get into like something from Netflix or cable or something, because you're dealing with a 10 to 13 episode order, so it's a lot easier to go back and watch.
We're back to the WGA strike, but go on.
Well, yeah. I might have some extra time on my hands, but thank you everybody who has
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for also helping us move on through our list here. Because we had a lot of great conversations with ones that we picked, a lot of good tastes going on too. So thank you. Well, it looks like we're going to be one of those season finales that actually has to break up into 2 parts because we went long. We went really long. There's a lot to talk about. So
we have
guys,
so much to wrap up. There's so much story to tell.
So much to wrap up. So if you want to get this second episode, don't forget, subscribe to us. Thank you for listening. Hit that subscribe button. Check us out. And we will be back in a week to talk about more of our favorite series finales.
Yay!
Yay!
Oh, yeah!
Go to sleep, Emily. You know, you really should wear more sweaters.